As a writer, how do you know you have a story?
Well, we can look at the video I made, which you guys titled that, and it was really funny because I hadn't thought of it that way. Anyway, how do you know you have a story? All right. I am going to be, I don't know, countercultural. You know you have a story when you decide you have a story. There's no, I believe that Terrence Malick, who makes movies that for most people are just completely incomprehensible, he feels there's a story, and the people who like his work feel there's a story, so there's a story. There's an industry definition of a story, which honestly is tied to various theoreticians who come along. Like I said, Sid Field for a while, Robert McKee for a while, the Save the Cat guy, whose name I keep forgetting.
Blake Snyder.
Yeah. Right, Blake Snyder. The point is that they're different, Vogel, they're different philosophers of screenwriting who have come into fashion, and people cling to that when they're in the business of making art, or when you're looking for something to hang on to in art to get past the actual truth, which is art is what you decide it is. Popular art may not be, well-paid art may not be, but the fact is you can do something that is obscure to others and it is still legitimate art. So to me, the way that you tell a story is going to be the way that you, in your experience of the world and in your experience of having glommed up other art, and you'll have said, I watched this movie and it spoke to me, and I watched this movie and it didn't speak to me. So the one that didn't speak to you tends to fall out, and the one that speaks to you stays in there and begins to shape your sense of story. And then you pile in others, and no two people will have the same pile. We all have different lives, and we all have different libraries of experience of art we've experienced. And what happens is all that stuff jumbles together and tells you, this is a good story, this isn't a story that works. And essentially, artistically, that's how you know you have a story, is that you say, this feels right to me. The caveat to that, the tricky part is, for a long time when you are working, you are going to be afraid you're doing it wrong. And so therefore you're going to not trust your own instincts and not say, that is a good story. And the other thing is, for a long time when you are trying to learn to be an artist, you're not going to do as well as you can imagine. And honestly, even now, and I have been doing this for 50 years, and yet I will still imagine a piece of work, and it takes me a long time to let go of the imagined version to accept the actual version. And that's when I can start to do good work. But for a while, I'm just like, it's not good, it's not good. It's not what I thought it would be. And at a certain point, you learn it doesn't matter what you thought it would be. You managed to make this half-created thing, and it's got something going on, because it always does. That's the story. That's the answer. Work and make that work. Make it better. Make it do whatever it should do, not what you thought it was going to do. So my answer would be, you know you have a story when, A, if you do this a lot, you'll get a confidence about that process, because it's really about the process. Every work is different, but your process tends to come from you and be sort of the same. And the process has to include uncertainty. It has to include not knowing that you have a story and being able to live with that until it clicks together and is. So you know that you have you'll know when you have it if you listen to yourself and to the judgment of the things that you are working from. If you are trying to succeed in the business, definitely study all those books and learn their rules and check against their rules. Absolutely. If you want to do that, and if you like a certain type of movie and that followed that rules, learn those rules. Absolutely. But they are not universal. All stories do not need to be that. And if your needs and instincts are different, just accept that it's unlikely to sell. Selling isn't everything. You know you have a story when it makes sense to you. And if nothing ever makes sense to you, if you always feel your stuff is bad, that's not actually a problem with your work. That's an emotional problem that you have to deal with separately. If every time you write, you feel my work is bad, how could all of your work be bad? It's not bad. You're just hearing it's not good enough, you'll fail, whatever voices you've got in your head that you've, out of anxiety, out of fear, you are saying, is it good enough? Is it good enough? If you learn to identify that and say, shut up for now, and you just look at, do I like this? Am I having fun? Does it move me? Does it entertain or interest me? That's how you know.
One thing that we hear a lot about is that character is action. What does this mean to you?
I like that. I just don't think it goes far enough. Character is action in the sense that if someone does something, we know something about them. But the same action can have very different meanings. In the book, I wrote a book.
Oh, right. It came out in October?
Yes.
Can I see it?
Yeah,
Can I see
it's called Writing
the beautiful
for Screens.
cover. Oh,
Yes,
wow.
thank
Okay.
you. Anyway,
it.
in the book, I say, I use an example which is very violent, so I'm a little afraid to say it here. But the idea is if someone takes an action, I think that's a good start. Character is action in the sense that in life, we understand other people by what they are doing. And that's actually tricky because sometimes what they are doing can be interpreted different ways. But our understanding of human beings is based on our experience dealing with them and trying to understand what the hell they're doing. So that's the first thing is, yes, character is action. If they do a thing, if a person steals, they are a thief, and the character is their action. However, what if they stole to give their family medicine that they desperately need or they're going to die? Then they're not a thief, they're a parent who's trying to save their children, and the thieving is incidental to the real action. So when you say character is action, you have to think, what is the real action? The action is parenting. The action is caring for your family, so you steal. So what I like to say is that character is a series of actions, because if before we see the stealing, we see them at home, that we see them with their sick child, and they take their sick child to the hospital, and the hospital says, oh, we can absolutely help them, but it'll cost you $5,000, and you don't have insurance, so see you when you do. Then the person goes home and they say, I know where I can get $5,000 by ripping off this illegal gambling den. Now we have somebody who steals from the mob.
Right.
Okay, are they a low-down criminal stealing? No, they're a person trying to save their kid. So the actions in sequence is what defines a character, because none of us are just one thing, and many actions can have different reasons. And so therefore you need to know the action, but you need to know the reason for the action. In screenplay terms, that means you need to show the reason for the action. So you're going to have a series of actions, a series of events, and that is going to define a character. If all you say is the character is action, and therefore they are a thief or a detective or a hero or whatever, it's going to be a little thin. But if you think, oh, this person is both a thief and a parent, then there's this weird richness that comes to it, and that's what is real character.
And so for your love of James Bond, how did his character define, how did all these actions define his character?
Okay, this is a tricky one because there's the James Bond of the books and there's the James Bond of the different series of movies. But let's just talk about Ian Fleming's James Bond and Daniel Craig's James Bond. And I will not get too nerdy about this, but what I will say is Ian Fleming's James Bond was a little thin as a character. He was a lot of fun, and there was a couple of incidents where he had emotional depth, but most of the time he was just fun. The Daniel Craig series, actually, they really get into his character, and I quite like those. And the point of that would be, he is a spy, he is licensed, meaning he's often assigned to kill someone, and therefore is he a murderer? Is he a soldier? He's a person who is, in theory, trying to do the right thing, ideally for the world, but certainly for his country. And in trying to do the right thing, he may have to be violent because the people he is up against are violent. And there is a good argument that perhaps a well-supplied police force could have arrested those people and put them in jail and not shot them. But for the purposes of entertainment, we just want one guy out there shooting them. So the answer is, any character is always going to be defined by the number of things you get in there. If you just get one, if they're just slick and cool and make funny comments when they kill people, that's a layer. But if you put under that what got them into that business, or what they're afraid of, or what they're troubled by, and the good versions of spy stories do that, that's character. And there's, by the way, nothing wrong with some slick entertainment which just says, you know what, for just a minute, we're going to pretend that a hero has nothing to worry about and that they're going to save the day, and it's all about how entertainingly can they save the day, which is great. We need that sometimes.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.